Hello, guys. Welcome to From the Heart for the Heart. I'm your host, Mike, and my other host, co-host, Brandon, aka Woody, down there, bringing it to you guys today with a special one. Got
I'm
two.
up here on my screen, by the way.
Wait, on
So,
my screen, you're down there. I'm
okay.
looking. I'm
All
looking
right. Just
down.
letting you know. All
Just
right.
you know. We got two guests with us, and I'm going to let Woody talk to you guys about that real quick. Friends of his that have morphed into friends of mine.
I'm sorry first for interrupting you. I just felt some kind of way. Being down here. No, I'm up here. Hi guys, I'm Brandon. Woody, as Mike calls me, had that nickname for years. Tonight's episode, I know we talked before about not having guests, but this was actually previously planned before we weren't having guests. We're gonna keep having guests. But tonight's episode is a special one. This one's been on my mind for a couple of weeks. So I want to introduce you guys to John and Steve from the Hyperion Review, which is a Disney movie podcast review podcast. If I'm correct, guys, the reason I brought him on tonight was to return a favor. um, they had us on their podcast, which was awesome. I don't know if you guys have checked it out yet. We put it on our page a couple of times. It's called the Hyperion Review. We'll actually post our episode with them as well in the comments again. And the episode that we were on, if you guys haven't heard it yet, we did a movie review on Song of the South, which is a technically banned Disney movie from the 1940s that had some strong racial stereotypes, negative racial stereotypes, a couple, one or two. And what wanted me to bring them on was after Chadwick Boseman died, and they showed Black Panther on TV. And my thought was, let's bring them onto our show and talk about a better Black movie with Black cultural stereotypes that not just for better feeling to sit through for everyone involved, but also more positive outlook, on the on Black culture and the Black community. So, what better way to bring on two Disney movie, Marvel experts to help us navigate through this movie? So, we'll let you guys take it away. Introduce yourselves and talk about the podcast. Whoever wants to go
That
first.
was good. Okay, so I'll take it. Yeah. So
age before beauty, man. Go ahead.
So yeah, thanks guys. We appreciate being on the podcast with you, or whatever you call this show that you have. I don't know if it's officially podcast status or not. We definitely appreciate you guys bringing us on here. I don't see it as returning a favor. Yeah, you are more than welcome to look at it that way. I just enjoy, Brandon, we know each other from prior to this. I've always enjoyed talking with you. I met Mike through this. Steve, I've known for a while, and I just enjoy having a conversation. I enjoy learning. I enjoy growing. And I think this is a good vessel to do those things. So that having been said, yeah, you hit the nail on the head. We are a Disney podcast, but I don't want to label it that way because obviously you got copyright and trademark infringement. So we're kind of a psychological, sociological podcast that primarily deals in Disney fandom. We talk about trends of racism and I'm trying to think, drugs, pedophilia, slavery. I think I may have said racism, those kind of tying together. We've done.
Don't forget Sasquatch.
God. There you go, Brandon. I know you were waiting for the Sasquatch reference.
The first one. It's early.
Yeah, but so we just, we try to bring a different version of the classic Disney that most people grew up with, right? It's all pleasant and princesses and rainbows and, everybody's pissing Skittles. And we try to get them to realize that maybe that's not necessarily the case. So, other than that, I'm the Disney guy. Steve, I'll let you talk about your side, but I'm the Disney guy. I went to college. I wrote my thesis on a Disney topic. So I've done my share of research on this. Steve, not so much.
No, I shine some light on the social issues.
Yeah.
But I also am the reason people come back because they want to laugh a little bit. So I'm just saying. I mean,
I
you
vehemently
can't start a
disagree with
whole.
that.
I mean,
You're
that's fine.
You're the comedy. You're the comedy.
That's fine. I'm the ha-has and he's the oh. Okay. Yeah.
All right. I can't disagree
There
with
you
that.
go. There you go.
No, but we want to thank you guys both for coming on the show. It's nice. A lot of our episodes, we may say something that's funny, or something quirky or whatever, and but it's still during a tougher topic, a tougher conversation to have, from the heart for the heart. So it's nice to bring on something that is going to be a little bit more funny. We can get some laughs. We can, smile just a little bit more, but we're still having a good conversation. I felt the same. That's
key.
That's what was the most fun about being on your episode. And I know the people that listened to it that I shared it with, that's what they enjoyed as well too. They thought it was funny while we were talking about a topic that, for the most part, has had people, on opposite sides. So we appreciate you guys coming on tonight. I said before, it was we're gonna talk about Black Panther. I was Mike after Chadwick died. I think that was the first time we had done a live that night too. So my emotions were it was hard to hide, right away. And the next night they showed Black Panther. I think I watched it on ABC. I'd seen it.
I think it took you 25 minutes to text me during that movie.
I think so.
Yeah.
And texted Mike at the same time, and I had seen the movie, I don't know, 8-10 times. It's definitely up there with the Marvel universe that I've watched. But for some reason, it's the first time I've seen it since George Floyd, since May, since we done the podcast. And I was feeling differently watching the movie and just had different views on the story that was being told. And I was, like I said, I texted you, John, and Mike as well. And Steve, I don't have your number, so don't feel bad. I didn't text
It's
you.
911.
But okay, got you. But it was like, hey, let's figure out how to get this done. And obviously, that's telling how long it took for the four of us to get together with how long ago that happened as well. But that was the brainchild behind this episode tonight. So I'm excited again to have you guys on. Mike, I know you are too. I won't speak for you, but I'm ready to start it. Okay.
But he just did.
So, yep.
But I mean,
the first time that's happened. So
we can jump into the movie, man. First and foremost, I didn't know Chadwick Boseman. I didn't watch 42. Never seen the movie.
Such a good movie.
Didn't watch the one where he played James Brown.
No.
I had the only movie.
Thurgood Marshall.
Nope. The only movie I've seen with Chadwick in it is Marvel movies.
Fair enough.
So I only know him as Black Panther. Everybody else who knows him as Jackie Robinson or whoever else, that's not me.
Sure.
I only know him as a superhero.
Sure.
So getting the news about Chadwick, it was. I don't really care about celebrity deaths because I don't know the people, but Chadwick, the importance that he had on the Black community as, I want to say the first Black superhero because Blade was there, even though until, but some people say, Blade there first, but I didn't see it that way. I didn't think as Blade as a superhero movie at all, and I totally forgot he was Marvel until somebody said, he's based off of Marvel character, so I didn't really base him off that. But
the first
hard.
Yeah, as you're saying that, Mike, I just had a thought. Like the first, not Black superheroes or anything like that, but the first portrayal of pro-Black superhero for me was always X-Men. Growing up, I caught on to that
Power
connection.
Rangers.
Power Rangers. Well, I guess, and that I didn't feel like they were superheroes to me. I watched the heck out of Power Rangers, but for some reason, they didn't feel like superheroes. I don't know.
There was a freaking Black Ranger. What more do you?
Zach? Well, I always wanted to. I was always pegged when we played Power Rangers as a kid.
Blue.
You're the Black Ranger. Like, why? I'm the leader.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Almost, and I don't think it was 100. Obviously, I don't think there was a hatred behind it or anything.
Yeah.
But I wanted to be the red was my favorite color. I wanted to be the leader. I like the Tyrannosaurus Rex. That was my favorite dinosaur. Those are my connections, to that. But X-Men I caught early, especially the animated series. with the, a pro civil rights, a pro, for the people type of superhero. And I kind of caught on to that early on. But Chadwick, for me, that was the first display on screen, and now that he's passed and you find out what you found out about the cancer side.
Oh man.
And that made him a hero for so many more people.
Mm-hmm.
On a completely different level. I had no idea. I was one of the ones that thought he looked weird when they showed him earlier in the year, I think, and he looked real skinny and frail. Like what's going on? So he definitely touched me. His death did touch me as well too, which led to this episode. So that's definitely it. What do you guys think?
So I will probably be the dissenting opinion quite a bit tonight. I will say that when it came across, right, because my phone went nuts. It was CNN, then it was Fox News, then it was ABC, then it was Reuters, then it was BBC, and then it was Facebook, and then it was Twitter, and then it was all the Disney people, and everybody's like, Chadwick Boseman's dead, and I'm like, okay. So for me, and I say this kind of as a white male, right? I don't have an emotional attachment like I would imagine that you have.
Right.
To me, he was just another actor, in the same that Jim Carrey is just another actor to me.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it was kind of like, okay, another celebrity bit the dust. It is what it is. But then, yeah, absolutely. You find out about the cancer and that he'd been fighting it for 5 years. And then in the middle of all this, nobody else knew about it. And he was still visiting other kids with cancer in children's hospitals. And, and then you find out that he actually there were pictures of him looking the way that he looked, for all intents and purposes, like crap. And people are just relentless. And then you find out this happened and you're kind of like, man, more than anything else, this should be a reflection of everybody. So for me, it was kind of like it was eye-opening in that I didn't realize how much of an emotional attachment people had to maybe not him as a person, but what he stood for the Black community. And then you could say just, the world community as a whole. You don't have to be just Black to appreciate what he did,
Mm-hmm. That didn't come for me until after he died. I'm sorry, Steve, to cut you off. I just wanted to say that real quick. I realized that after he died, how much bigger he was.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Definitely. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Steve,
he was definitely a model of like just what it was to be a human, know. Like even if you put race aside, like he didn't show any favoritism to anybody at any given point. All he did was give. Didn't ask for anything in return. And I'll tell you, as I'm the Marvel guy in the team here, like that's my thing. I grew up on the comics and the 90s cartoons and all of that. And I never heard of him until he was Black Panther either. But me being the nerd that I am with my buddies, when we hear about a new casting choice, we go all in and try to find out info about him. And even before he was Black Panther, he was always a philanthropist. And that right there made him an awesome choice in my book. And then he became Black Panther, and it was a show-stealing performance anytime he was on screen. Even in Civil War, the few times he was on screen, he was the center of attention. And that was next to Captain America and Iron Man and everybody else. So, I mean, exactly. And you can ask John when he messaged me and told me that he had died. And I know my reaction was pretty out there because I was floored. Not only knowing that you can't recast them.
No. Right. No.
So, that changed the whole Marvel landscape going forward. But then knowing that he was the kind of person he was, for me, I was bummed. I didn't even think, his impact on the Black community, just knowing who he was as a person, for me was like, damn, the world just lost something really special. Just like when we lost Robin Williams, same thing.
Yeah. And we're back on From the Heart for the Heart. We have our guests from the Hyperion Review, John and Steve, with us. We are reviewing one of my favorite, I won't say it's my favorite Marvel movie, just sitting here off the top of my head without thinking about it, but definitely up there in the Marvel Universe, the Black Panther movie. Dedicating this, rest in peace, to Chadwick Boseman. And we're going to keep moving with getting ready to talk about the movie review as well. Just how we were feeling you know, watching it the last time, you know, but just seeing it overall and then how we feel about this movie. So we're going to keep moving forward. Mike, I know you said you had a couple of things you wanted to jump into to kind of bring us to our topic tonight. So I'll let you go ahead and take it away.
Yeah, man. When I first saw the trailer for Black Panther, first and foremost, I was never a fan of Black Panther before Black Panther became a movie. I didn't know of Black Panther like that. I like to think that I was a Marvel fan, but I didn't. I was not excited until I actually saw the trailer for Black Panther. I'm like, he doesn't have any powers, man. All he does is wear a suit.
He wears spandex.
Yeah, but the hip hop, the track playing, the visuals, the fact that it was released in February, Black History Month. I know my people all on Facebook, they were talking about being extra. I'm talking about dressing in tribal gear, purple for royalty. I mean, they were just talking about going all out, and they did. Man. They did do that. They went outside in these costumes.
It was like Harry Potter
attire for the release of this movie.
Harry Potter.
That hype was just so surreal, man. For most of the all-black cast superhero movie.
Yep.
So I don't know what your guys' reaction, what happened in your world, but I mean, I was ready to come out there in a cheetah print, you know, a lion over my shoulder, ready to go, like I was coming to America or something.
Yeah, I don't know if it was strategic, but I see the purple behind you there against the wall.
It was not, but hey,
I got you.
So I like that.
I was indifferent. I'm kind of in your boat, right? I didn't know a lot about Black Panther. I knew even less after the trailer came out. Yeah, the trailer was cool, but for me, it was just like, okay, cool, another Marvel movie that I need to see. You know, I didn't have an emotional attachment to it. In fact, to be specific, okay, so this came out in February. Avengers came out. Yeah,
February
Avengers came out like May. Was it a year later? Or was it like 6 months later?
You're talking about Infinity Wars?
Yeah.
It wasn't.
Infinity Wars came out in April of that year.
Okay.
So it's like 3 or 4 months, right? Yeah. I didn't see Black Panther until the morning that Avengers Infinity War came out. And I watched it bootleg on my iPad while I was at work.
Oh, boo!
And I went from work to the premiere of Infinity War. So for me, it was like there was no urgency. So I'm sitting at work.
This is gonna sound bad. This is gonna sound bad, but that's actually a black way to watch the movie. You know, so
are you inviting me into your circle here? Is it
no? Because you invite Black Panther.
He saw it on bootleg.
No, my people actually they spent their money on this. You do this to every other movie, not
so
Black
we had a role reversal.
He's not lying. He's not lying.
So we had a role reversal. I mean, if we're going to talk about a predominantly black movie with a predominantly black cast on a predominantly black podcast, we might as well make the white guy the bad guy.
He did the way he was supposed to. He did.
Yeah. So I mean, so I'm watching this bootleg. I get all the way into the movie, and I'm like, okay, well now I've seen it. Now I'll understand what happens in Infinity War. So for me, it was like I just need to see it to know what comes next. There wasn't any urgency. Now I've watched it a couple times since, and every time I watch it, it does improve for me. But it's not my favorite Marvel movie. There was no urgency to see it. It's still better than Iron Man 3. So I mean,
Iron Man 3 was trash.
Yeah.
I don't want to get into that. That's a whole nother topic for me. That storyline that I thought that they were really going to pull it from.
Oh, the Mandarin.
Yes, was in the the not just that, but the gosh, I can't think of the name of it right now. But the disease that the guy had.
It was
Extremist. Yes. I thought that they were going to pull from that, and I remember seeing that on Netflix years ago. I was excited when I saw that. They did that too.
The way his suit came out of his skin and like he became one with it with Extremist.
He almost died.
Waiting for it, didn't happen, and I was so angry.
Cheers on that, dude. I was
congratulations, Black Panther. You're better than that.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on, John.
Go ahead.
Whoa.
Go ahead.
Here it comes.
Okay, so growing up, I never owned any of the Black Panther comics, but he would often appear in the Iron Mans, the Captain Americas, the Fantastic Four, the X-Men. He would show up all over the place. So when I heard about the movie, I didn't really know what to expect. Saw the trailer, and I thought, if this movie looks this good the entire time, it's going to be amazing. Because he's always been a background character. We see him in Civil War. He was a background character.
Right.
Yep.
Never thought of him as the main character. And then Black Panther, saw the trailer. It came out in February, right around my birthday. I had an 8-year-old's birthday that year. I went to Walmart and I bought a Black Panther shirt. I bought a Black Panther hat.
You bought
went
Black
and saw
Panther
the movie. No.
John, or actually Steve, is further along than you are, John, with how he handled this movie, is what it sounds like.
Yeah.
Okay,
and I stood, and I was in line for 4 hours to see the movie on opening day. So I was hooked on this, and then when I saw it, I was like, oh my God,
it was really good.
Amazing. Michael B. Jordan was like the perfect bad guy throughout the entire movie. Like, he wasn't predictable at all. It was just, might have me a man crush.
Let me tell you, that was one movie. I have kids. I had a girlfriend at the time. I did not go with anybody. I went by myself. I didn't want to be distracted. I didn't want to be, who's that? No. I will bring you back here to watch it with me, but the first one, that's all me. You know, that was the same way with The Incredibles too. I know that's Disney, but
yeah,
I waited years.
I've seen that movie so many times. Yep, that movie's so good. That's my favorite Pixar movie, definitely.
I'm just gonna continue to sit here in my little square of isolation.
No, it's fine. I told you, you're good, because the way you saw it is how I've seen countless other movies.
Welcome back, guys. From For the Heart, we're gonna dive into this movie, man. We got 4 guys with 4 different backgrounds, with 4 different views, most likely. So the range of topics on this Black Panther movie is gonna go from the surface to psychological to even deeper than that. So I hope you guys are ready and willing to go down this journey with us, man. So I mean, let's just start. What stuck out to you guys about the movie? I'll start with John.
yeah, that's fine. So I've got 37 points that I'm just kidding. It's not that involved. So I'll start with that. This movie, even the first time I saw it, was very Lion King-esque, in that obviously, you know, you've got the Africa connection. So that's the most glaringly obvious similarity there. But Lion King, dad dies. Simba goes on a quest to discover himself. Along the way, he comes into adversity from, you know, a family member, which in this case, I think Killmonger
this is cousins. This is actually his
cousin, right?
Actually,
yeah,
not
so
distant
cousin.
Not distant cousin.
Yeah.
That's his cousin.
It's
no,
direct.
it's his
first
cousin.
Yeah, first cousin.
Because it was the king's brother that in the beginning of the movie, right? The guy from This Is Us,
right?
The first time that was the weirdest casting for me, by the way. I'm like, what the hell is the guy from This Is Us doing here? And why is he getting arrested? And why is he speaking funny? You know, like that for me just totally took me out. And I was glad he was gone for the rest of it. Anyway, so it was very Lion King-esque. Even the resolution at the end of the movie, you've got Scar and Simba fighting, and then, you know, he takes over Pride Rock, and then you've got T'Challa and Killmonger fighting, and he gets to continue being king of Wakanda. So for me, there were a lot of similarities between these two stories. And I know that The Lion King, I believe it's based on Hamlet. Is it Hamlet?
It's Hamlet.
Yeah. So you could even make an argument that this had some Hamlet ties to it. So, you know, for me, that was just something that stood out from, you know, high school English. Which I know, Steve, I'm going to get to it before you get to it. Was 50 years ago. We get it.
Listen, man, just because you had Professor Shakespeare as your high school instructor, I'm not judging on your age, man. I'm just letting you know now. It's all right.
So, moving on from there, one of the things that I kind of picked up on, this was much later watching, this was not anything I picked up on the first time, because like I said, I may not have watched it in the best way on a tablet at work. When I finally sat down and actually watched this on a television, I start picking up on like themes, kind of like the Underground Railroad, right? In the sense, obviously the Underground Railroad was designed to smuggle, and it was designed to smuggle, black slaves out of precarious situations into free northern states, and then, get goods in, and it was kind of back and forth, right? But it was this idea of hiding, and this idea of smuggling good and bad in and out that kind of stood out to me. And specifically when we look at Wakanda, right? Wakanda's kind of hiding, and nobody knows that Wakanda is this big superpower in the world, and they are smuggling,
vibranium.
What is it? Vibranium in and out of Wakanda. See, I pay attention, Steve.
There you go.
But it wasn't vibranium in the play, or not the play, in the comics, was it? It was adamantium, wasn't it? Yeah. Right. See. Okay. All right.
So, quick question.
Yeah.
Steve, I guess this is for you then. What's stronger?
Vibranium or adamantium? Vibranium.
Yeah.
Okay. The molecules vibrate at a certain frequency, which makes them indestructible. Adamantium can be destroyed with heat. So
experts.
Okay. Yeah, that's all. Just wanted to ask an expert.
Yeah, thanks, Stanley Jr. We appreciate that.
Yeah.
It's a full carbonized steel. It's indestructible. It's ridiculous. It's molecular makeup is what makes it unique.
I want to say something too to that second point, John, because when you talk about Wakanda and the isolation, that was something that stood out to me too. And what I saw from it was like almost in Africa that had never been colonized.
Yeah.
That was 100% the first thing I saw. It was almost a story of the continent or a country that never had been pillaged for the resources.
Trade never took place.
Exactly. You know what I mean?
That was a connection that was made real quick. When my buddies and I saw it, one of my buddies, great dude, his name's Isaiah, and he was one of the only of us that was a black guy watching it. And he immediately was like, dude, he was like, that whole continent could look like that if they would have been left alone. And I was like, you have no idea how accurate that probably is. It was so cool to see a glimpse at what could be. And I could imagine, just as a nerd, I felt a sense of pride. So I could just imagine how he felt watching that. These guys are the baddest asses on earth right now.
Right.
Well, and even on the flip side, right? If we look at America, air quotes. Whoa, sorry about the mic hit there. If we look at America as a whole, where would we not be? Right. And I think it's fair to say, okay, where would Africa as a whole be if the whole continent had just been left alone and nothing took place? But where would everybody else be? That literally civilizations and societies were built on the backs of these individuals who were literally ripped from their homes. So I think it goes both ways.
Oh yeah. But sorry, John, go ahead, continue.
No, it's okay.
What's your points? I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, it's all good. And the only other thing I would say is to finish up point 2 there is that there's an old Wakanda and there's a new Wakanda, right? And you see that King T'Chaka, he was kind of the dying of the old guard and the old Wakanda, and the T'Challa coming in is the new guard and the new Wakanda, in that they are, by the end of the movie, they're no longer isolated. The world knows they exist. They know the resources they have. They know, they're willing to share with the worldwide civilization their successes. So, I picked up on that one almost immediately, and kind of tied it back to what's happening, or what has been happening at least in the last 50 years or so, that once slavery and segregation was no longer a thing, this Black culture as a whole became known and is fascinating. You learn about heroes in the Black community. You learn about different religions, which to me, growing up as a kid, there was Christianity.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yep.
And then you get to middle school and high school, and you're like, wait a minute, Native Americans have different gods. The Egyptians have different gods. African people, I don't know the official term, but they have their own religions. Like that blew my mind. So it's very interesting to see the old Wakanda versus new Wakanda, and then you have like old African versus new African within the world culture. So kind of parallels there.
Yeah, and I think it was just really awesome that they were able to embody the notion that we all know that like once the African community was able to spread its wings and show who they are, that they give back so much more than anyone even realized.
Yeah.
And they showed that in the movie perfectly at the end, where the advances in technology in the Marvel world completely just go through the roof because of what Wakanda gives them. They gift them. Right. They don't have to give it, they gift it. And
let's call it what it is. The only reason we beat Thanos is because that we had Wakanda in the picture.
Right.
If he wasn't there.
And it exactly. And it just goes to show like the kind of ignorance you have to realize that there's so much more to get from other people besides those you think are right that are like you. You know, like you got to open yourself up to everybody, and like the possibilities are endless.
Right. Yeah. So one that smacked me in the face, and this is one going back to what 2017 when this movie came out, is that Claw, the character, was it Ulysses Claw?
Yes.
He is a representation of white supremacy, and the idea that obviously he's a white male. And he is not concerned with the well-being of Wakanda. He's not concerned with the well-being of you know, you could say black individuals. He's only concerned with his prosperity. He's only concerned with getting the vibranium, making his money, and living his life, which, let's call it what it is. That's slavery, right?
Right.
It's forced servitude to, you know, pick your cotton, you know, clean your house, cook your meals, you know, basically do all the things that you don't want to do so that you can go out and do the things that you want to do. So for me, that like that character was such a white supremacist character. And then just to see his storyline occur later on in a different movie, and the way that was resolved was extremely interesting to me as well.
Yeah, I mean, Africa is it used to be, I don't know if it currently is, but it was a very rich country. Like the resources in
continent
were, my bad, continent. Resources there were astronomical, and people want to paint this picture that, oh, Africa is just poor. No.
Yeah. It's just sand. Yeah.
It's desert, people with towels on, cut up towels, and running around getting chased by lions. No, that's not it.
I don't think I've ever had that visual in my head of people getting chased by lions.
You know, weirdly enough, I did. So
I think they did a good job too with playing how the way Wakanda cities looked, you know, with how advanced they looked and just how, you know, modernized and even beyond that, but they still kept true to those old tribal traditions in a way that wasn't an over the top. Let's bring back in our episode that we were on together too. It wasn't over top in a negative way, you know, what they were trying to portray of the culture of the community. You know, I love the scene whenever T'Challa was being challenged for the throne at the beginning, you know, and just the way that tribal feel to it, you know, there's a pride to it, you know, that I really appreciated watching that as well too. Even whenever Killmonger killed him, even that ceremony, huh?
Spoiler alert.
Oh yeah, sure. At this point, if you haven't seen it, you know, that's you idiot.
That's all your fault at that point.
We're not gonna not spoil it, guys. If you're watching this,
Thanks, Mike. Though, yep, I guess so. Yeah, but it took me off my train of thought. Yeah, when Killmonger, even whenever he threw him over the top, that ceremony, you know, that environment too, I always thought was cool. So just another tie-in that they definitely felt.
They did a really good job of mending the whole futuristic technology look and feel with their traditional African ways. Like they're walking through this big advanced city and they still have a beautiful open air market like you'd find
made of
all
like
over
clay.
Africa.
Yeah.
You're still getting, like, you could look anywhere in any of those scenes and it feels like Africa.
Yes.
But he's using a floating cart to carry the produce.
Right.
or things like that. But they mended it so well. Like it was a work of art is what it was.
Yeah.
Like it was beautifully mended in a way that, like, even in the comics they didn't do that.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was gorgeous to see. And as like I said, as a nerd, I fell in love with that landscape. That whole thing was just, it's a nerdgasm is what it is. There you go.
Yeah.
New word for you. Yeah.
It was the best. I think it was the best. The only other place I thought was as visually impressive in the Marvel universe was Asgard. The first time I saw that, Asgard was cool. That whole area, and then but Wakanda just, even taking out the. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, that just goes to show you, like, of all the landscapes they've shown in every Marvel movie, the only way you get anything as beautiful and jaw-dropping as Wakanda is not even on Earth. Right? Like,
yeah,
think about it. Like, that was the only place on Earth that looked like that. And the only other place you find it is by jumping through a rainbow bridge millions of light years away. Like, that just goes to show you how much love they gave Wakanda.
I believe the term you're looking for is Bifrost.
I know what it's called, but Rainbow Bridge sounds funny.
And we're back again on this. This has been a great episode so far, guys. We thank you again for coming on tonight. Again, we have John and Steve with us from the Hyperion review on From the Heart for the Heart, talking about Black Panther, a Marvel movie. This has been, guys, this is awesome. I love superhero movies. Marvel Universe has been great. Endgame, I cried. I still cry when I watch it. Oh my goodness. 15 years.
Feels so good.
Half of my life all in one moment when that, we're going to jump back in, John, he's bringing up some great points and we'll jump back into that. But Steve, we want to hear from you as well too.
No, we don't.
We don't. I do. Just moving it forward, let's talk a little bit more about the movie. How did you feel about the movie overall? Past the visuals and things. So,
man, so like I said earlier, I saw this movie on opening day, and just as a comic book nerd, I was ready for it. After I saw the preview, was ready for it. And watching the movie after the first time, second time, third time, you pick up on a lot of things. And when the things going on in our nation became super apparent, around the time of George Floyd and all that, going back and rewatching it again, and then when he died, watching it again, you appreciate the kind of subtleties and magic making they did in this movie. Where they touch on stereotypes without making them offensive.
Right.
Like King T'Chaka's brother was undercover in America. And where they put him, wasn't it Compton that they put him in?
Oakland.
I thought Oakland. Yeah,
Oakland.
It was Oakland.
Yep.
So they put him in a notoriously known Black community. It's very obviously a lower class. The kids are playing basketball and there's a milk carton as they showed what it was like to live in that city in that time frame. And they basically built up this idea that how the community is portrayed, the Black community is portrayed. And they build all this up. And then when they show you Wakanda, like I said, I felt a sense of pride just as a nerd seeing this come to life.
Mm-hmm.
But after my buddy's brother pointed out, like look how amazing this place is compared to what everyone's used to now. Whether it's inner city, whether it's, in a village in Africa, all the above, they just show this is where we are, but this is where we could be. Mm-hmm. And they just show you this magical world that's advanced technology. Like, they didn't make it magic. They didn't make it hocus pocus.
Yeah.
They made it seem like something that is 100% achievable, and it's all Black minds doing it.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, you look at the parallel of like Oakland, basically, I don't know if I want to use the term inner city or, ghetto or anything like that. But, when you have Black individuals and Black culture being subjugated to white stereotyping and white control, you don't have to look too far to see where that gets you. And then you look at Wakanda, who's in a bubble all on their own. even all the way back in what I think was the 80s when the movie first started, and they were killing it. They had flying ships then,
right?
You know, in the 80s. So, you know, where are they now? So it was just interesting. I just figured I'd jump in there, Steve, and kind of strengthen your point a little bit.
Yeah, it's just it was just like I said before. They were able to touch on stereotypes without making them offensive.
Yeah.
You know, there was cheap shots that could have been taken. They could have, you know, done whatever with it. And they did it to reinforce the point that anything's possible, you know, and to give that kind of encouragement and hope, especially to younger African Americans who are dealing with the bullshit that's being dealt with.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, it's even in just a small way, a piece of encouragement that, you know, an 8-year-old kid could have seen that and been like, I want to be the guy that makes that. You know, like that's a special thing. It's like being a dad. You know, if I can see my daughter light up when she sees Captain Marvel do her thing or Black Widow do her thing, and she's like, Dad, I want to be that when I grow up. Like, you can't hope for anything better. And to have a role model, not just as a character with Black Panther, but Wakanda as a whole, as something that could be achieved one day, and giving that to millions of like young Black kids all over the world that could potentially see that and trigger them to do something amazing. Like, yeah, I don't see another movie with that kind of timing having that kind of impact like Black Panther could have, even before he died.
I mean, the layers to Black Panther, by far, there's no other Marvel movie that has.
There's so many of them.
Yeah.
1/3 of the layers that movie has.
It's an ogre.
They did they did it so well that it didn't turn off white people. It didn't turn off white people. Like, if you first watched it, this is great. This is a good movie. And if you keep watching it, if you are conscious enough, you start seeing some of these subliminal messages, and it doesn't turn you off to where you're just like, well, like with Kaepernick. Well, I'm not watching this no more.
Right. It made Black.
You're making me feel uncomfortable, so I'm just gonna not watch.
Yeah, you're making me look at myself, and I don't like that. I need to stop.
Yeah. It made Black radicalism cool too, on a mainstream level. Killmonger with his first scene in the museum, you know, he wasn't. I mean, if it's not said in any other way with the hip hop backdrop. You know, just the way he came through. If what he said wasn't said in any other setting, you're rolling your eyes. You know, with how these artifacts. How do you think your ancestors got them? You know, and that's a true statement. You know, but it comes off as Black radicalism, and he made that cool. You know, I thought throughout that movie with the way he acted. But Steve, as you were talking and you mentioned with the BS that the Black community goes through now. I wanted to know how you guys felt about not necessarily Killmonger's view, but his father's view on what Wakanda needed to do to the Black community, for the Black community around the world. You know, I want to know what you guys, that theme. I thought that was, because that made me emotional thinking about that throughout the movie too. So,
you guys, are you asking them, or am I a part of the guys that you're asking to?
Huh?
Am I a part of the guys you're asking to?
If you want to chime in, man, it's your show.
I definitely want to chime in.
It's your show.
No, I'll start off, man. Like, I was,
and from his
maybe
point.
It's just me. Yeah, like maybe it's just me, but like when he said that, I was like, oh shit, he's not wrong. Like, his whole viewpoint from his side, like, in no way is that unjustified. Like all joking aside, and it's not me pandering or anything like that. Like, I remember the second I heard that, I was just like, well, fuck, he's right. Like, in what way is that not deserved at this point? In some aspect, you know, like it. I was like, well, he's not wrong the whole time. I still wanted to see my man Black Panther come out on top, but yeah,
that's how I was. Especially as I watched it numerous times, I get into arguments or discussions with people on Facebook about the ugly history of America, and we weren't the only ones who were doing this and that. We weren't the only one destroying and blah 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 blah. You know what I mean? And I'm like, once Killmonger said that, I'm like, okay. So if you guys weren't the only ones doing it, now it's our turn to take back what we want. I don't want to hear anything about it because, you know, that's just how the world works. Those who have it, take it. So now that we have it, or in the movie, now that he has it, we're going to take it. You know what I mean? So,
You know what I think that was like that was our parents and us. I think in a lot of ways with the way our feelings are, you know, to the systematic racism and things such as that. Whereas Killmonger's father was like, we want to use our technology to help our people, you know, and help the world in a sense. And Killmonger's like, we want to use this to give to our Black brothers and sisters, you know, to you know, uprise was essentially what it was. Nobody could stop us. And it was like, and that was that the first time he says it in the movie, that's what kind of woke me up to, because that was around that point whenever I started messaging you guys too, was how much stronger that rang because of where we were right now. Not that that's what I jumped behind or, you know, but that one, that made a lot more sense than it had any other time I had seen that movie, you know, as well too. But I think that shows just the difference of thinking inside the Black culture, you know, with how to fix, you know, the elements in the Black community, both in this country and across the world too. So I thought that was a interesting, you know, way that they made that even cool. You know, they made Killmonger's message, you know, something to get behind.
It ties back to MLK and Malcolm X, just like Professor Xavier and Magneto.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I've always been one to, I used to be at MLK, a Professor X type of guy, but as I grow older, I'm moving more towards Malcolm X. You know, I'm tired of being passive. I'm tired of people think we're insignificant or lesser of a human being. Like, no, we are not. And I've grown towards being the more extremist of, we need to take over, or we need to have the world just needs to be mixed babies. You know, we just need to have mixed babies everywhere, and then hopefully this will go away and we have some other issues. So, you know, that's just me.
And it can be real problems, like finding out, you know, getting everybody Sasquatch stuff. There you go, Steve.
Man, you know, I think if the world could stop paying so much attention on what makes us different, and we all paid attention to what makes us the same, and then what makes all of us that are the same different from Sasquatch, we'd find them.
So, Killmonger, go ahead.
No, go ahead, man, because my point's going to be a while.
I was just going to ask if Killmonger your favorite villain in the Marvel Universe.
Oh, by far. Like, I like any villain, Joker and Killmonger. Heath Ledger's Joker.
Okay.
They are two villains.
Solid villain.
I agree with. Like, I couldn't find any fault in any of their logic. You know what I mean? Like, they might have went about it the wrong way, or they might have been
up a hospital. Yeah.
But they made me root for them. I wanted Joker to beat Batman. I wanted Killmonger to beat Black Panther.
Okay.
I did. I mean, I felt that his way, there were two ways to get to a similar path with Killmonger and Black Panther. Mm-hmm. And Black Panthers would have took a lot longer, and Killmonger's would have been a lot quicker. Right. So I mean, I was rooting for Killmonger. Like, I know it's not going to end that way because it's a superhero movie, but I'm like, he's so right. Don't kill him. Let him come back. I don't know. Don't kill him.
Throw him overboard. Man, that's what he said.
I'll tell you, man, I love Killmonger. In the Marvel Cinematic Universe, at this point, he's my favorite by far. Yeah. If we're talking Marvel as a whole, I'd have to go Bane, but that's a whole nother. It's a whole nother.
You said Bane.
You said Bane.
Oh, yeah.
Like that's Tom DC. Hardy's Bane.
That's DC.
No, like the real Bane, the comic book Bane.
That's still DC.
Yeah, I know. But you said my favorite. I'm just saying in general. He said Joker, so I had I didn't misspeak. He said Joker. That's DC.
Take him
also.
off. Get rid of him.
I think I like Killmonger. You know, Thanos was second in this quotes because he says a lot of good things too. But Killmonger just he doesn't. Thanos isn't like, I think we said this before. You know, you come for Black Panther and Chadwick and everything that was hyped up about the movie, but you stayed for Killmonger and his radicalism for, you know, he touched that angry chord. You're proud the entire movie, you know, you stand behind T'Challa and how noble he was, and he was a great king and he wanted to rule and do things the right way. But as soon as Killmonger comes on the screen, it's like, you know what, he's right. You know, F this, you know, like, yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
You know,
Killmonger was, like I said, in the Marvel Cinematic Universe so far, he's my absolute favorite.
Yeah.
Because what they did a really good job of was, no matter how much of a bad guy he was, he never made a bad argument.
Yeah.
And the only thing more dangerous than a really strong bad guy is a really strong bad guy who makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, and that's where they covered all the angles on what a bad guy should be, from, you know, a personal connection, you know, a fear connection, creativity, all of the above. Like, he had all of that covered. Mm-hmm. Like, he was basically the quintessential bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Killmonger's awesome. And Michael B. Jordan is an amazing actor. And I'm going to throw that out there. Anything he's been in outside of Fantastic Four was fantastic. So
that's not even his fault. And that's not even his fault. Yep.
All right, John. I know you're.
Although, let me ask you a question. Don't you think that Sasquatch would have made a really cool Human Torch?
No, his hair would have been.
All that hair just whoosh. Okay, whatever. I think it'd be cool.
I think so too.
You see what I have to deal with every single episode. Do you understand how many Sasquatch references I cut from our show?
A big flaming Sasquatch is an amazing sight, I think. So,
I thought Killmonger was okay. I thought he was very he was conflicted, and I look at him, how do I want to say this? I want to say it tactfully. I look at him like a black Trump voter. And what I mean by that is kind of an outsider, you know, somebody who does not follow the norms, does not necessarily live in that culture, and does not have the same ideals as the community as a whole, but still thinks that their opinion is valuable and they feel like they are doing it for the right reasons, right? So when we look at, and if either one of you are Trump supporters, which I know, Brandon, you are not, Mike, I don't know if you are, but
I don't know about I'm not.
I know there are black Trump supporters that exist, and for me that's one of the most oxymoronical things that I can come up with, right? But that's another show. That's another conversation.
Yep.
But I look at him as an outsider in the black community, in that, you know, the black community has kind of gone one direction for quite a bit of time. And you can even look at the Wakandan culture has gone one direction for quite a bit of time. And he wants a piece of that. And he's never had it. So at this point, he's kind of radicalized himself. And obviously there's outside influences, but he's radicalized himself to want to get that. So for me, it was, as a villain.
So who would his Trump be then? Claus?
Well, I don't know that we necessarily have to bring Trump into it. I was just kind of using the idea of like.
I can see what you're saying, because
me too.
I'm not a black person. You know what I mean? I like, me and Woody, we were in high school and junior high, we were called Oreos.
Mm-hmm.
Black on the outside, white on the inside. Mm-hmm. You know,
I'm so glad I didn't make the reverse Oreo joke in the beginning, because when I was looking at the screen, it had me and Steve on the outside and you guys on the inside.
But yeah,
anyway,
I mean, we were ostracized. Like, me and Woody, we we were able to hang around the black people, but we weren't accepted by them. We were too corny, we were too preppy, or just not black enough. You know what I mean? So I can definitely,
I can see that.
I can definitely
no, just kidding.
feel what Killmonger was, because he was left by Wakanda. He was left by his uncle back in Compton or wherever they are.
Yeah.
His parents left him, or his family left him, and pretty much said he's just not Wakandan enough.
He's not us. Mike. I never even thought about that feeling like that.
And so look at it from this perspective too, right? So you have 2-ish generations of white males and females who are in some respects still being held to the sins of their parents or grandparents, right? So you could even look at Killmonger in the sense of, he's a black kid living in Oakland. His dad did wrong by Wakandan law, and they are holding him accountable for his sins. So you could even look at, the white generation that exists now, who I think is light years beyond what it was in the 30s, 40s, 50s, kind of 60s.
South. Yeah.
60s,
right?
Yeah.
So there's a generation, my generation, Steve's generation, our generation as a whole, of white individuals that are being held to the sins of their parents and their grandparents and their great grandparents. And in some respects, that could relate to Killmonger as well.
A little white privilege kind of for you know what I mean?
Like, I wasn't trying to go that route, but I get
all
it.
This vibranium, and you got all my people back home dying.
Yeah.
You got all of this. You need to help them. And they're just like, and it pretty much is white privilege. They're like, no, they're not like us. They're black, but they're not Wakanda. They don't have the little number.
They're not Wakandan black, right?
They're not black.
So they gotta fit for themselves. So,
they've almost done it. They've almost put themselves in that situation, is what it is.
So and I feel like I'm doing a lot of the talking, so I apologize if that's the case. But for me, I related with, what was his name? Everett Ross.
The FBI guy?
The CIA guy.
Yeah, CIA guy.
In the sense that you kind of didn't know where his allegiances lied in the beginning of it. And by the time you get to the end of it, he's actually shooting down Killmonger's planes that are going to bring the weapons and all that out to the world. To the point if I remember correctly, didn't he get shot?
He got
protecting one of the guards.
Yes.
Yep,
so he wasn't even standing to take but he wasn't taking a bullet for T'Challa. He was taking a bullet for someone else. So I kind of relate with that character in the sense that he's a white male.
Yep.
He's got no skin in the game, right? For all intents and purposes, other than Claw, he's the only white guy in the entire Wakandan territory, and he's fighting the fight with them, right? So I kind of look at that as, I'm a white male. I've never been oppressed in the way that you guys have, or your ancestors, right? Parents, grandparents, great grandparents have, but I get it. And I'm going to learn from that and not do it to you guys or your children, and hopefully create a better world for it. So for me, it was kind of,
brother.
That was the guy that I related to, was Everett Ross, in the sense that, given the chance, if it really meant that much, I'd like to think that I would sit on a gun and shoot some planes down, not only because it's freaking cool to shoot planes down with a gun, but because there's something behind it,
Right. That's almost to the point where you go ahead.
No, go ahead, man. You're good.
I was just gonna say, I thought about the point you made earlier with just how you were talking about how black culture is just so interesting.
Yeah.
In a way, and that's the way he almost was when he got there. He's like, man, this is awesome.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This is not what I thought. This was what was going on in Wakanda. Well, and now the other thing too, in the Marvel universe, they're viewed from the outside world as the way Africa is. Anyway, they're viewed as just as Wakanda's poor, just like every other country, in Africa, I'm pretty sure, to the outside.
Well, that was kind of the narrative they were spinning too. They wanted people to believe that,
And there was a rumor that and vibranium didn't exist, or it was so rare that, there may be a little bit in the world. But anyway, that's what he found when he got there. He was like, wow, this is beyond anything, that I've ever experienced in my life before. And these are cool people, you know what I mean? The Wakandans, so I thought that tied back into what you were saying earlier about just that enlightenment he found.
Yeah, you know, and kind of going off on the old and new Wakanda, right? The old Wakanda, in my opinion at least, was almost segregationist in the sense that you're Wakandan or you're everybody else. And we're not, you know, you had to be born in Wakanda from Wakandan parents to live in Wakanda, and they didn't want anybody else until obviously T'Challa comes along and opens us up to the rest of the world. But I mean, that was very Nazi-esque for me, in that you got to be pure blood, you know.
I'll tell you what though, you know, in regards to how T'Challa brings the technology to the world, I thought it was not just beautiful, but it was very Chadwick Boseman the way they did it. So, you know, he's like, you know what, we're going to give the technology back to the world. We're going to help everybody. And he made the decision he wasn't going to pick and choose who it goes to. He's going to help the world as humans. But he also validated Killmonger's ideals and not making him seem completely invalid and wrong by the way he did it. So if you remember at the end, they go back to the apartment where Killmonger's dad was killed.
Yeah.
They land there, they're looking at the building. You see a bunch of cute ass black kids playing basketball, and they're just wondering, you know, who this is. And the first people that they expose their technology to is that group of kids. You know, he goes, check this out, and shows them the ship. And they're the first people outside of Wakanda, really, to the general public to get to see it. So he helps the world. He wants to unite everybody, which was Chadwick Boseman to a T. But he still wanted to help, you know, his brothers and sisters around the world. And that's where he started. And that was, again, that's just another beautiful way that they integrated who the person was and the character was, and still validated the bad guy, even though he was a bad guy, that his ideals weren't far off from being a force of good.
Well, doesn't every bad guy see themselves as the good guy anyway?
Yeah.
The good ones do.
Right?
That's true. Yep.
And the bad guy sees the good guy as the bad guy. So from a certain perspective, you could argue that Killmonger was actually the good guy in this whole thing.
Well,
that T'Challa was trying to keep everything the same.
Well, we could go into the subjective reality of evil and good, and that could be a 30-hour discussion. But
here's the to that exactly what you were talking about with them, their roles being reversed because of the thinking. It's almost like what's the way to put it? I'll use Black Wall Street as an example. Up before the massacre, because my feeling is, as much as Killmonger's right, there's such a, remember how we talked about in our podcast, or your podcast episode we did, where at the end of Django, when they leave the plantation, they still have to get through the rest of the South.
Yep.
So there's still,
in some respects, the North.
You know, so you're thinking about how great that idea is for Wakanda to give that technology. But, and I don't know, Mike, I want to know what you think on this too, being a black male, but part of me is like, don't do it. You know what I mean? As much as right as Killmonger was, there's still a part saying, don't do it. You know, don't share it with the world because of that white supremacy aspect that we talked about, of the way Claus was. You know, and I think that comes from a black culture perspective, you know, of where I understood how Wakanda stayed isolated, just like Black Wall Street tried to stay isolated, black-owned businesses, you know, where we have, like how there's that community in Georgia, where all the I think it was 19 or 20 African-Americans got together, you know, pulled their money, they made a small community, you know, where they'll have their own civic leaders and they'll have their own police force that they're talking about doing, you know, to keep themselves protected, you know, to keep themselves safe. You know, I'll try to find the link, a little bit more information on it, but that was part of the thinking.
It's a cool story.
Too. You know, not segregation from the standpoint where, because you hear that a lot, where black people talk about doing that, and then you'll hear from, you know, white people saying, isn't that segregation? It's like, no, segregation is me not being able to go do something because of the color of my skin. You know what I mean? Being separated from the color of not allowing me to do the same thing that you're doing. Because of that, I'll say more so. Yeah, that's more what it is in any aspect.
My view And I mean, we're gonna have to go to break. We don't have commercials, but my view is more so. I'm gonna help. Yeah, I'm gonna open it up, but I'm gonna open it up to help people who look like us first. I'm gonna get us on equal playing ground first before I extend my hand and open it up to everybody else because they've had centuries of a head start. But I just want to see people like me prosper first before I'm like, all right, everybody else can get in the pool and take a swim. You can all just eat a little bit. That's just me, and you can take it for how you want, but that's what our podcast is, From the Heart for the Heart. So, you know, you can take it how you want to.
All right, and we're back with the finishing up with the From the Heart for the Heart podcast. Again, we have John and Steve from the Hyperion review. We are reviewing the Black Panther movie, and as we said, you know, kind of an intermission is that we can unravel so much with this, you know, more so in this hour-long episode that we have. But we want to, John, finish up some of the points that you had. I think you said you had one or two more to kind of.
Oh, I got one, and you're gonna love it. You ready?
Oh yeah, please.
Michael B. Jordan was cast wrong.
He should have been Black Panther.
He should have been Black Panther.
I'm out, guys. No.
I don't know.
He should have been Black Panther.
Why? I'm gonna give it's free. He has the First Amendment right, Steve, to say how he feels. So I want to know why.
So in my opinion, he was the better actor. I felt more emotion that came from him. You know, when you have that scene when they're in the African wilderness and he sees his father for the first time, it's for me, it was like an embrace of a friend almost. Yeah, I know he fell to his knees and he's like, get off your knees, you're a king, right? But like that should have been so much more for me. And every single scene that Michael B. Jordan was in, he commanded every scene, right? Even if it was just him screaming at people to like go get those guns, right? Like he owned every scene. And when T'Challa or when Chadwick, yeah, you can shake your head all you want, Steve. You're wrong. I'm right. That's what works. When he was in his scenes, you're just kind of like, okay, yeah, I get it. He's Black Panther. Like there was no emotional appeal to me for him having that role. I feel like if they had flipped those roles, if maybe Chadwick Boseman was Killmonger and Michael B. Jordan was Black Panther, I told you guys were going to love this opinion.
I don't know.
All right, hold on.
Go ahead.
I'm gonna have to go. Okay, first of all, we're gonna have to talk about the state of our podcast after this whole conversation. Okay, let me throw this at you. Okay, here's why you're wrong. Okay, T'Challa kept his composure and maintained a level of grace and harmony with everything all the way through, like a king should. Just like when Thor wasn't allowed to be king because he was reckless and loud and on a path of self-destructed, like self-proclamation because I'm the best there is, and it was going to be worse off for everybody. That's what would have happened if that kind of energy was put into King T'Challa. He would have been on the wrong path. He maintained a level of grace, and he maintained the composure a king should have. Whereas Killmonger, exactly how his character was portrayed, he was betrayed by his people. He was left out by his rightful place in the royal family. He had a mission. He had an axe to grind, and that's what he portrayed. So no, John, they were not cast wrong. You just didn't watch it right. Okay.
Oh, roasted.
Go ahead, Mike.
I mean, I agree with everything that Steve said. You know, John's been on the wrong side of everything today. You know, getting
as I said in the beginning,
getting Black Panther and doing it bootleg. You know, you can't do that. So, I mean, I agree with Steve. I believe that Michael B. Jordan did such a great job, and
he was about to say Michael J. Fox for the record.
I was going to say that, but he just
could you have said a wider name?
You know, portraying
Marty
all
McFly.
emotions. And T'Challa, he had to be kingly. He had to be king-like. You know what I mean? He had to be looking out for all of his people, all of his subjects. He couldn't react out of emotion like he probably wanted to. You know, like in the previous movie, what was it? Civil War. He was gonna kill. He's gonna kill.
The main he was a young angry prince.
Baron von Zemo.
Yeah. I kill him. But after that, it softened him up and made him be able to think clearer rather than strictly off of emotion for killing his father.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and see, here's the thing: like if you look at the energy that he put in at the beginning of or at the end of Civil War, I could have seen Michael B. Jordan doing that kind of emotion and it working. But then to see him come back later as a proper, calm, collected guy, it wouldn't have fit his demeanor and his build and who he is. Like it wouldn't have fit.
I think Michael or Killmonger, I think he acted like a king though too. You know what I mean? In a certain way. I've always said in everything, you know, from Game of Thrones to watching what's that movie on Netflix with Robert Pattinson, The King. I think that one, or I think it was the fifth, King Henry V. There's two kinds of kings. There's a noble king and a ruthless king. And I think to that extent, the Lion King reference with Mufasa and Scar and even Simba as well too, both of them can rule successfully. And the successful rule is that you don't get your head cut off when you're talking royalty. You don't get offed. You know, your reign ends with you dying more peacefully. But I thought in certain ways they were both king-like, you know, but I don't. Yeah, no, John, you're wrong. Yeah, I thought Michael B. Jordan was cast perfectly, and Chadwick, was as well too, because they portrayed that. Ryan. How you pronounce his last name? Cooley, the director.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. I don't know his last name, but
I thought he portrayed Killmonger was perfect because, like we said, that black radicalism. He made that cool, and he spoke to that.
Mm-hmm.
Because Wakanda was something that we talked about in the beginning, something we wouldn't ever reach. In certain aspects, it was just out of our fingertips. Whereas Killmonger, we could relate to. I thought, and Michael B. Jordan to that extent had that Oakland look, than.
Well, that was a point I was going to make was, Michael B. Jordan's character Killmonger, again, with them touching on stereotypes without being offensive, he was raised, in Oakland. That, again, it's a notorious area with a very bad inner city,
especially in the 80s,
atmosphere and environment, especially in the 80s and 90s. It was bad. And he portrayed a character that was raised there, that was given the training, found out the truth, and went on that kind of mission. And that's why he had a swag to him. Like anytime he was doing anything, like when he was in the museum, he was smooth, got the point across, he got the message across without being, he wasn't overtly aggressive, but he put on this swag to it, like, exactly what you guys did wrong, and I'm going to point it out to you, and you're going to accept it because it's right.
Yep.
It was king-like, but like he said, that's the ruthless king model versus the kind king model. So, and unfortunately, Disney always kind of shines a bad light on the ruthless kings, but I mean, at some point it works.
It didn't work in Lion King, but it definitely worked here. Everybody was like, F Scar. Kill that man. Kill that lion.
I mean, think of Cersei. Because that's where my reference for that came from with GOT. My girlfriend hated her. And I didn't like her either, but you had to respect the gangsters. What I said every single week.
Right,
So
now we're going to have a Game of Thrones. And
are we talking Cersei?
We're going to have a Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna kill you, bro.
You can do that. I don't care. Say how you feel, because I'm not even I was never a diehard like that. But I watched
Steve's
it.
getting off camera because he's never seen it.
I've seen it all the way through. But you got to respect her gangster, because she's like I said, a successful reign is you're not dead. That's
I
a
love
successful
dragons.
reign.
Let them eat cake.
we're getting on to all right. So shutting down, closing down, guys. Thanks, John. Thanks, Steve, for coming on to be on our podcast.
Thanks for having us.
Yes.
Yeah, man.
Episode,
It's
man.
a pleasure coming to talk.
Mike, can we rate the movie real quick?
Yeah, real quick.
Just to kind of, I don't want to steal all your guys' thunder, but our listeners, when you go listen to their podcast, please do on any way you can listen to streaming. But they end every movie review episode where they rate the movie. You know, they give it a rate based on what's in the movie. I won't take that from you. We'll just use hearts because that's what we do. But I love your show. Like, I'm a fan just, on the side. It's not because, John, I've known you and Steve. Yeah. I feel like I'm starting to know who you are, but I actually enjoy listening to the podcast. He's a great guy. I told you, I'm Team Sasquatch. He changed my life. But I want to
Sasquatch 2020.
I want to give it a 5-star heart rating, 5 heart rating, 1 to 5. I want to know what you guys think, Mike. Since you're the co-host / producer / owner. He moves himself like he's the king of the production. So I'll let you go first. He's got royalty, royal purple. So, and the headband. So Mike, 1 to 5. How many hearts do you give it? 4.5.
Mm-hmm. It's an origin.
And I'll even.
It's one of the best origin stories out of Marvel. So I'm gonna give it a 4.5.
Okay. John, Steve, who wants to go first? Out of 5.
I'll go first, man. I'm gonna give that a solid 5, man. It's like I said, they had the best Marvel bad guy to date.
Yeah.
They built a solid story. You had empathy for both the good and the bad guy. You had reasons to root against each one of them. You had a reason to love each one of them. And I think it portrayed a good message, not just to people, but it gives a whole generation of Black youth a model to look at and be inspired by. Like, not every movie can do that. Like, I don't watch Spider-Man and want to be a smart white kid. I just want to climb walls and shoot webs, right? Like, so I mean, not every movie can do that. And this movie does that.
Cry.
It did. It did.
Yeah.
Oh.
All right, Mr. John.
So I am going to give it. I'm going to give it 4 pieces of stolen vibranium. Because I have to rate this against every other Marvel movie that has come out. Okay. And I still don't see this as being the best origin story. I think there is one that's better. I think that is Captain America, the First Avenger.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Iron Man. Because that
hold on.
There.
Whoa.
But Captain America? Oh.
Hold on. First of all, this was not an origin story movie. His origin was told in Civil War, sir.
Whose?
Captain
America?
Black Panther.
I'm still giving
you
it
learn.
And I'm still saying Captain America's better.
See, that's why we don't get along on any of these subjects, because you're a Captain America fan. And Captain America's movies are some of the worst movies in the Marvel universe.
See, Mike, I thought we were cool.
Captain America,
you had to go there.
Was terrible.
Just stirring that pot. Stirring the pot.
Until he had other people come in. Civil War, that was good. Winter Soldier, the first
Civil War was the worst of them all.
Skull, it was terrible.
Civil War should have ended completely differently.
John, we need to wrap this up, guys. I'm done. I'm over it. I'm gonna have to find.
Iron Man was my favorite of the origin movies.
Iron Man was the best one.
Iron Man was good. But I think the underrated one was. I like the Incredible Hulk as well. They should have kept rolling with that with Edward Norton as Banner. But no, real quick, I'll give this movie. I'll give it 4.5. As well too. The 4.5 all come from everything we talked about and how I felt about that movie. But I won't give it the 5 because what John said with rating it in the Marvel universe, you know, as far as those go, the Infinity War Endgame saga, the Avengers saga as a whole, the early ones from when I was younger, I put those up higher as far as the Marvel movies go. I told you how I felt about Endgame, but I still give it 4.5 out of 5 because of how I felt, you know, how I roll from it as an African American.
So you hear that, Steve? That's the sound of me having influence.
We had 4.5 plus 4.5 plus 5 plus 5.
4.
So that's 19. Huh?
I gave it a 4.
You gave it a 4, not a 4.5? Okay, I'm sorry. 4 plus 4.5.
You know, Mike, on my screen, you and I are on top and they're on bottom, and I see why.
And see, on my screen, it's me and Mike on top.
And as Brandon calculates, I just want you guys to know, as our audience, as I sign us out, he at first said 5, and he was the first one to vote. So when you guys are watching this, I want you to pay attention to that. Go back. Brandon was the first one to give him a 5.
Yes, he was.
I did.
You did, and then you went back and gave him a 4.5.
I did.
And then try to give me a 5.
Want to go with then? That's what I did with. Oh, good guys. Leave me alone, okay? It's late.
I guess we'll just all forget that, you know, we would have had no chance against Thanos without Wakanda. So let's not give, you know, Black Panther a 5. That's cool, whatever.
I mean, he did turn to dust.
That was my thinking after Thor cut his head off. But let's stop.
All right.
Thanks again, guys.
Guys, thank you for joining From the Heart. Remember, every time we come on the show, we say from the heart for the heart. You might not agree, we might not agree, we might not get along all the time, but just know it's said in love, it's our truth. And at the end of the day, we shake hands and we go about our day. Thank you for joining, and see you next time.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.